Good morning, everyone. We're here today with Mr. Thomas. I wanted to introduce you to him. He has to go have his morning milk, so he's not going to be here for very long. But I wanted to show you why I have not been streaming as much. I have to take care of this little face. Can you say hello? Are you spitting up? No, you're not spitting up. Can you say hello? Oh. Say hello. Say hello. He doesn't want to be here. Oh, can you stand up? Can you stand up? He's not the star yet. He will be soon. He's going to put Mr. James to shame, I bet. All right. Amy's right here. She's looking at me like I'm crazy. He's a very sweet boy. Here you go. Bye. Can you say bye to everyone? Okay. I meant Amy. Can you say bye?
Oh, bye.
All right. We're back. Am I not in the Bahamas? No, I have a child. It would be incredibly irresponsible for me to go out to the Bahamas with a 2-week-old baby. Man, my hair is a mess. I stayed up all night with the baby last night. When you're with a baby, the baby's drool all over you. And that's okay. I'm probably not going to play much poker until May for the World Poker Tour Tournament of Champions, unless something comes up. Maybe something will come up, but yeah, we're probably not doing that. Let's see. Hello from Tuscaloosa. Hello. How's being a dad affected your poker mindset? Oh, it hasn't changed. I think I already had a pretty good mindset. I've always been quite patient. And to be fair, patience is not necessarily a good thing, right? What does patience mean? In my mind, my issue, if anything, is that I don't take every spot that I should. And for that reason, I actually think that I need to be less patient because I typically err on the side of being just a little bit nitty. And when you're a little bit nitty, what happens is you inevitably blind out, right? And I'm not trying to blind out. I'm trying to win the poker tournament. So if anything, I've had to make a point to always try to take more and more spots. And if you look at a lot of the best players in the world, they take most reasonable spots. What's his name? His name is Thomas. Thomas Broder Little. He's a nice boy. So what is today's topic? That's the wrong paper. We have a few topics coming up. I write down all the notes I can about the topics. Everything that can fit on the note card and go from there. Henderson says, is playing tighter lower variance? Typically it will lower variance, but it will also lower your win rate. So it could actually be very detrimental because if you lower your win rate, that's going to jack up variance. Like imagine you have lots of swings, but your win rate's through the roof, then the variance is just kind of irrelevant because you're winning so much money. But if you play tighter and have the same win rate as if you were to play loose and aggressive, then, or if you maintain the same win rate, then you will very often just win more. It's a shame I couldn't make the PSPC. It's a good value. Fortunately, Mark, I don't really have to play all the tournaments anymore. Something I realized when I had my first child, actually when I met my wife and stopped traveling so much, is that you don't have to play every game just because it exists. Imagine there is a 25K out there where you can have, call it 100% ROI because it's soft. Well, that's $25,000 for a week of play. Obviously, the PCA itself is better because there's lots more events. Let's say on the week you make, or on the 10 days you make 35K. It's a good week, good solid week, right? If I stay at home, man, this hair is a mess. If I stay home with my new child, what is that worth? If I stay home and keep my wife sane, what's that worth? If I stay home and I write a book, maybe not a whole book, maybe a fourth of a book, what's that worth, right? So fortunately, I have ways to make money beyond exactly playing poker, and that's a good spot to be because if you have to be out there grinding all the time in order to pay the bills, then you have to make sacrifices, right? You don't get to spend all of your time with your newborn child, and you don't get to do things like that the decisions I've made have afforded me the opportunity to do. Did I watch any? No, I've been busy. How do you balance your 3-betting range? We'll discuss that over at pokercoaching.com. Go there and get a completely free trial. It's one of the homework questions. I'm very confident balancing your 3-betting range from the big blind. You're priced into call with a lot of your range. Just because you're priced into call doesn't mean that re-raising is not a better play. Very important to realize that sometimes you need to be bluffing, right? You need to have 3-bet bluffs. The blocker hands, Ace-X, King-X, Queen-X, are great bluffs some portion of the time, especially against late position. All right, today, we're going to talk about, because of the PSPC, because of the Party Poker 20 million guarantee that they ran recently, because of all of these Party Poker and Poker Stars tournaments that are coming up where a lot of people are going to be playing their first major tournament, today, we're going to talk about playing your first big tournament. So at the PSPC, Nickel Sigel, who got his seat through Jamie Staples, he transformed his life by losing a bunch of weight, getting his diabetes under control. He stopped smoking 50 cigarettes a day, and he won Jamie Staples' seat that he was giving away. And he came to me for private coaching. And I agreed to do it completely for free because I liked his story, and also I will record all of our sessions, package it up, make a training product out of it, and help lots more people. So, Nickel is at the PSPC right now. He made day 2. So that's good. I believe he has about 2 starting stacks, so that is exciting. He's not really the type of player who's going to sit there and blind out, which is good. I've been through a bunch of his hand histories. I recorded myself going through most of them. And he had a few issues, right? But he worked hard to address those issues. And really, whenever you go to a coach for private coaching, you're not going to see like any sort of significant boost in understanding of the game in a short period of time, because we only worked together a month or 2. But you will be able to plug a lot of your leaks, right? And one of Nickel's leaks, for example, is he would play any Ace-X from any position. That's just what he did. He would either limp it or he'd raise it every single time. And that's a big, big, big mistake. And we plugged it, right? I mean, he doesn't have to understand why he shouldn't be playing the Ace-X. He does get it. I understand. I explain it all. But the fact that he plugged that leak alone is going to drastically increase his win rate. And very often, recreational players have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 things that they do wrong. And if they fix those 5 or 10 things, they immediately stop doing so poorly. So, anyway, Nickel came to me, and he was, he got the PSPC seat, which was great. It's worth $25,000, so now he has this $25,000 pile of equity sitting there, and now he has to figure out how to make the most of it. And he was smart, right? He went out, he tried to get private coaching, and he did, right? He presented a reasonable offer, he had a good story, and it was great. So, he played, made a few deep runs, and he was struggling for a bit after we started coaching. He was wondering what was going on, and then we talked about variance, about how, you are going to have lots and lots of swings in poker. But then he all of a sudden won a tournament. So he won another tournament online after we started working together, which is great, right? It gives you a lot of confidence going in, and it's good. So his leak is that he was a little bit too splashy, and one of my fears for him was that he may not take the game quite so seriously, because he has a job, he's well enough off, right? And my fear for him is that he may go out there and just have too much fun. That said, I don't think he is, right? Because we discussed this. We discussed, go out there, play your best, make sure you control these few leaks that you have, and that's going to make you a whole lot better off. I'm also working with Blotz, and you may know him as Scarmaker. He took 3rd place in the $20 million guarantee tournament for $1.3 million. He's going to be going out to the World Series this year, so we've been working on World Series of Poker prep, and I think he may have a slightly different issue where he's a little bit too tight when a lot of money is on the line. He was normally a much smaller buy-in player than $5,000, which is what he satellited into, and that resulted in him playing a little bit too tightly. That said, he still made a deep run and did great. But so far the hands I've been through, there were many spots where he could have been more aggressive, right? And whenever people go to play their first big tournament, quite often they default to the mindset of, I really don't want to go broke here, or I want to just survive. And that's not necessarily good. Oh, what's happening with the chat window? Let's see if I can fix this. There we go. So you need to figure out which side of the spectrum you're going to err towards, right? If you normally treat poker very casually, you may find that inevitably you goof off in the big tournament, and that is a big problem. If you really care about the money, because let's say you're playing online on Party Poker and you turned $5 into $5,000, you're already 1,000x'd up, Well, that may be a problem too, right? And in reality, you just need to play normally. The idea of I'm going to play tighter to try to survive or stay out of tough spots is a little valid, but not actually that valid in my mind. If anything, if you normally play $5 average buy-in and you're playing in a $5,000 tournament, you're going to be at a big disadvantage, right? Just naturally, because you're not a 5K player. So you need to be playing a much higher variant style than normal, because that is what takes away the edge of a lot of the best players, right? They want to be playing very tight, or they want to be playing a lot of post-flop poker with you. So if you're playing post-flop poker with them, you are playing right into their... that's what they want you to do, right? That's their plan. So you're playing right into their plan. Instead, you want to be doing what they don't want you to be doing, right? Good players don't want to be playing big all-in pots pre-flop, because if they just lose one or two, they're out of the tournament, right? So very often, if you do satellite into a tournament, or if somehow you magically find yourself in a tournament much bigger than you're used to, very often you should be playing more loose and more aggressive, because you are at a disadvantage. So if you're at a disadvantage, instead of playing 100 pots with a disadvantage, you want to play like 5 pots with a disadvantage. That way your disadvantage does not get compounded. I mean, whenever you go to the casino, for example, if you're going to play blackjack or roulette or whatever, you would much rather, let's say you go there and you know you have $100 to play. You'd be way better off betting $100 one time and quitting win or lose than betting $1 until you either get to 200 or go broke. You know, you lose 100. Because if you do the dollar style, you're going to end up losing almost every time. Whereas if you do the one-shot, $100 one-time strategy, you're going to end up winning 48% of the time or whatever it is. So would you rather win 48% of the time or like 5% of the time? And that's because the edge compounds over time, right? All right. You don't hear many kids being called Thomas these days, so bravo. Okay. How nitty should you be on the money bubble? It depends. One time I remember playing in Barcelona, and there was a guy who just didn't show up on the bubble day, and people knew he'd blind out in 2 hands. He is blinding out in 2 hands. Still, two medium stacks got it all in. One had ace king and one had queens. It's just so dumb, right? You just don't play a hand for 2 hands, and you get a free $10,000 min cash. So obviously sometimes you should be tight, but normally you shouldn't. Do you ever feeling of doubt after a win? I try to not let confidence or lack of confidence matter that much. What's the next step to become a better poker player? Go to pokercoaching.com. Get your completely free trial. Go there, pokercoaching.com. Go through all the quizzes, all of the homework challenges, and that will make you a way better player immediately. All right, should you play nitty versus the big stack blind versus blind? Probably not. Mark says my stream is titled incorrectly. Man, oh man. I'm pretty sure I pressed update all. Let's see. I'll go change that right now. Let's see, titles. It didn't take for some reason. Thank you for pointing that out. That's a bummer. Websites, man. Websites are tough. There's so many things you have to do each day to start a stream. I say so many. There's like 10 little things you have to do to start a stream, and one of them is change the title, right? I actually went there. I entered change the title. I thought I clicked change the title, but apparently I didn't. Thank you for pointing that out, Mark. Don't think it matters at this point because it's probably too late, but that's okay. All right. So what else did I want to talk about? Well, here's a very good question from 99% of you. You're going to the World Series for the entire time for the first time. Any advice? Yes, I have a lot of advice. First, make sure you have experience playing in events, right? Make sure you have played some live poker. So, for example, Scarmaker, who won $1.3 million on Party Poker, is going to, or at least I've suggested he go out and play some other series before the World Series of Poker. So he lives in Europe, so maybe he goes and plays some other Party Poker series or EPT series or whatever. Not necessarily even the big buy-in tournaments, because he's not trying to put his whole $1.3 million at risk. He's a smart guy. He understands just because I have $1.3 million doesn't mean I'm bankrolled to play 10Ks. He's going to be smart about it, right? He's going to set most of it aside for life and retire and do whatever he wants for the rest of his life. And then with another 100 or 200K, he's going to play poker, which is smart, right? He's not giving it away. A lot of people give it away. Almost everyone gives it away, and I'm going to make sure he doesn't give it away because That's by far the best thing I can teach someone is how to not give away your money. But if you're going to go to the World Series for the first time, make sure you have some experience. Make sure you realize what you're signing up for, right? Understand you will be playing a lot of poker, and that's going to result in you maybe be feeling burnt out, maybe feeling tired, maybe feeling exhausted. Try to get in good physical shape, right? Try to study a lot. Try to get in good mental shape. Make sure you understand how to play poker well, right? If you don't play poker well, you're just giving your money away. So make sure you're playing with an advantage, and you do that by studying a ton between now and then. So do that. I would tell you to try to make yourself as comfortable as you realistically can at the World Series. That's going to mean packing a bag that contains everything you need. Maybe you need a jacket, maybe you need a water bottle, maybe you need some sort of food that's healthy that you can take with you each day. Maybe you need headphones, maybe you need an iPad, maybe you need a book. I don't know what you could possibly need. But all those things, keep all of that in mind. Try to stay somewhere that is reasonable. Now, I don't know exactly your situation 99%, but I typically like not staying at the Rio. I like getting away from the tournament venue if at all possible. This is assuming you're going for a month, right? If you're going for just a weekend or something, it doesn't matter. But if you're going for a month, you're going to need to get away from the casino. I've stayed at Palms Place the last few years. It's fine. It's not incredibly nice, but it's fine. And I'm happy with it for the price. The price is not so much. I don't know. Ask questions. I'm happy to answer questions. That's exactly what we're talking about today. Going to play your first big tournament. All right. So what else did I want to talk about? Well, I was going to say be comfortable, right? Let's say you're going to the PSPC, I definitely suggest you show up a day ahead of time, check out the venue, see everything, go ideally try to figure out where the water bottles are, figure out where the bathrooms are, figure out where you can get food reasonably and quickly. Figure out things that could be an issue for you, right? At the PSPC, for example, there is a quote-unquote secret bathroom in the back. It's not really that secret. You just walk around the back, but there's never a line and a wait. Whereas if you go to the one main bathroom right in the middle of the hall, there's often a huge wait. So knowing where that secret bathroom is, just by taking a little stroll around the venue, will save you a ton of time. At the PSPC, for those who are there, there's one way to the back and to the left, and there's also one in the front and to the right. So two secret bathrooms, both of them very rarely have a line. Same thing in the World Series of Poker, right? You need to know where the secret bathrooms are there. At the World Series of Poker, try to spoil my good bathroom tips. The best one, in my opinion, is the one out by the pool. The one at the pool never has a line or a wait. It's about a 5-minute walk from the tournament venue. And you get to walk outside for a little bit, which is nice. So instead of staying inside in the casino, you get to walk outside, get a little bit of kind of fresh air, and have no line or wait in the bathroom. You can stop and have a margarita at the bar if you feel like it. What's the next step to become a better poker player after you know the fundamentals well? I already said that. Go and study at pokercoaching.com. Also read my book, Mastering Small Stakes, No Limit Hold'em. Pooker King says, now my bathroom's going to be busy. Yeah, it may. That's okay. There are lots of little tips like that all around Vegas. There was a VIP lounge at Bellagio that I used to go and sit at all the time. It was just like my little break area. And then more and more poker players started showing up in it. And then they would not let you back there unless you were staying there. So that got ruined. That was a bummer. But yeah, back there you could get water and cookies and apples and oranges and wine at the end of the day. It was nice. But that got ruined. To be fair, there was a restroom in the high-limit slot, or high-limit gambling area at the World Series, but that got ruined as well. So all the really, really good things get ruined, but some of the things that are not so good, like an outdoor pool bathroom, those don't get ruined quite as easily. All right. Let's see. So try to be comfortable. Figure out how to make yourself comfortable. Stay sane before the event, right? Say you do win a seat to a Poker Stars tournament. I know there's one coming up in Russia, I believe. Say you're going to go to Russia, or say you're going to go to the Bahamas, or you're going to go to Montreal, or whatever. Say you're going to go there, and this is a big tournament for you, right? Normally you play $100 tournaments or $10 tournaments. Now you're going to play a 5K or a 10K or whatever it is. Realize that money is not necessarily yours, right? A lot of people get in their mind that, okay, I had no money, now I have $25,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is. I need to make sure I get that amount out or something like that. But there's a ton of variance in tournament poker, and you cannot feel attached emotionally to any individual buy-in. So don't even start thinking in your mind like, oh man, I lost $10,000 today. Because, yeah, you did, but also you didn't really. Because your equity when you tried to satellite in for $10 was $10, right? So your equity is $10. Somehow you magically turned it into 10K, and now you magically turn it back into zero. That happens. Don't be emotionally attached to it. If you are going to be emotionally attached to it, what you should do is you should sell action. Now, you're going to have a hard time selling action if you've never played a big tournament because you have no experience, right? So, normally good players charge a markup. They sell action at 1.3. So say it's a $10,000 buy-in, they'll sell at 1.3, which means they get $13,000 if they sell all of it. Obviously, they're not going to sell all of it. They're going to sell half of it or something. So, what you could do is if you know that you really don't want to have $10,000 at risk or whatever the tournament buy-in is, the solution to this problem is to sell action at a discount. And you can even sell action to your friends and family, right? Sell it to them at 0.9, 0.7, whatever. Whatever you think is fair. That's going to give them a sweat. That's going to get them invested in you. It's going to be fun for everyone. And yes, you lose a little bit of value in that. Like say you have a $10,000 buy-in tournament, you sell it at 0.8. Say you sell 50% at 0.8. Well, now you have $4,000 cash, and you have 50% in this tournament. It's not so bad, right? Normally, I don't suggest people sell at a discount, but if you really care about the money, then you should, right? Your goal, in theory, should just be to cash out that satellite seat in whatever way you realistically can, while still also getting to go on the trip, play the tournament, etc., etc. So that's a reasonable thing to do. Say you do go there, you play, and then you either lose or you win, whatever. Once you're done, make sure you enjoy the vacation. Very often, these are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to go somewhere exotic and to travel, right? If you go to any tournament stop, they're going to have something there that you can go do. Go see the city. Go see whatever the sites are there. I know whenever you go to a place in Europe, they often have it in a major city, and it's fantastic. You go, you stay in the city, you eat the local foods, you go do things. It's great. But you need to make sure you actually do that. Now, if you win the tournament or make a deep run, maybe you won't have very much time for that. But that's okay, because you're making a deep run. But if you're not making a deep run, understand, again, don't feel attached to that money. Don't let it ruin your trip that you lost, because, again, that money wasn't yours to start with. And then, have fun. Enjoy yourself. So, those are generally my tips. I mentioned here I don't know if I want to ruin everyone's mindset, but whenever you play any tournament, what happens? Say you start with a $10,000 tournament and you 10 times your starting stack. Okay? Presume we're not in the money yet, et cetera, et cetera. What is your equity? Well, your equity is $100,000. So you're sitting there. You started with a 10K. Now you have 100K. And now, if you bust immediately, what do you get? You get $0. So you have $100,000 if you just happen to run into another big stack with your aces to kings or whatever, or you just run a big bluff. Who knows what you do? If you do that, you now go to zero. Say you get a min cash, right? When you get in the money, often you start losing equity in your stack because money's getting cashed out of the prize pool then. But say your stack is worth $100,000 and you bust for a min cash for 20K, you just lost $80,000 in equity, right? And that's pretty brutal. I remember in Montreal, where I took 8th place recently, I had, what was the equity? I think it was like $200,000 in equity. Or no, I think it was like $300,000 or $400,000 in equity, give or take. And I just happened to run top pair into a set of the other big stack who was a bit of a maniac. And I'm just out $250K in equity. If you think like that, that's going to make you go nuts. You should not be thinking in terms like that at the table. You should just completely forget it. Realize your goal is to accumulate chips in the best way that you can and to maximize your equity. So all you can do is maximize your equity. And realize in tournaments, you very often are going to cash out your peak equity, right? Essentially, you only cash out your peak equity is when you win the tournament. So you should not feel emotionally attached to it. That will absolutely drive you nuts. What stakes was nickel playing? I actually don't know. Mostly small stakes stuff, though. like 10-ish dollar tournaments as far as I remember. I could be wrong about that, though. Let's see. 99% said you played a couple of World Series. This is the first time you're going to be going for the whole time. It is a little bit different. Make sure you stay sane. Take off days. Don't go there and play all day every day. You'll go nuts. How much experience should you get playing live poker before trying to go full time? 1 year of playing every weekend? Listen, you need a lot of results, Anton. It's not necessarily a question of how long have you played, but a question of, are you a winning player? If you're a winning player, then give it a whirl. Typically, it sounds like you have a job, right? So if you have a job, I would tell you to take 2 weeks off from your job and then play poker full-time as if you were a professional for 2 weeks. See how it goes, and then you're good, right? If you play for 2 weeks, you enjoy it, you have a good time, you continue to win at your win rate, etc., then maybe it's time to consider giving it a try. I've written a lot about if you should go pro, and there are a lot of barriers before you should actually try to go pro that you need to get over. For example, maybe you have insurance at your job, right? And you don't have insurance. Or maybe you have a retirement plan at your job and you don't have a retirement plan in poker. So very often you need to make significantly more from poker than you do at a regular job. And also you need to understand that the poker results you have had, especially if you only play on the weekends for a year, those results may be very skewed to where you just ran hot, right? And if you just run hot for 100 sessions, then you may think you're winning at $100 an hour, but in reality you actually win at $30 an hour. So I suggest you keep expenses low, very, very low, and I also suggest you drastically underestimate how much money you're going to win from poker. All right, 99% says you have a World Series of Poker prep blog. I'm not going to read it now. Might as well click it, though. Now I probably have all sorts of viruses on my computer. All right. You're playing a WPT event today. Well, good. Good luck. You have an Airbnb 1.7 miles away from the Rio. Good. I haven't had a rental car for the last few years. I just take Uber. K2P2 says, buy in early to avoid long lines. Sure. Is playing live cash games suitable prep for larger tournaments, or would I recommend building experience in smaller tournaments? Get some experience playing smaller tournaments. You need to play tournaments because that's what you're playing. They are different games. Ryan says, should you use different strategies in mastering at small stakes cash games? No. In the book, I explain how to play fundamentally sound, and then also I explain how to adjust to all the various games. So you'll be fine. What's an appropriate sample size to determine your ROI in 6-handed sit-and-goes? About 1,000 games probably gives you a pretty good idea. 5,000 games gives you a really good idea. How hard is it to be a good tournament player if you're used to playing and studying live cash games? That's a tough question. It depends on if you're a winning player at live cash games. If you're a winning live cash game player, you can probably be at least a decently good tournament player. Also depends on how much you're winning, right? If you're winning $1 an hour, then maybe not. But if you are already a very good player, you can often transfer those skills to other games. Bill Seymour, my first poker coach here on Facebook, said, your fear for me is that I didn't factor in the value of moving up spots. I wanted to win it all. Yeah, winning it all is nice. That's how you get trophies. We have trophies, right? You get trophies by winning it all. That said, if you look at a lot of the best players' results, they have a lot of seconds and thirds because the goal is to win equity, not championships. All right, let's see. What's my favorite large tournament event? I like World Poker Tour events in general. They're a lot of fun. Party Poker and PokerStars have been putting on great series as well. I've had a lot of great fun. I went to the Party Poker series in Bahamas in November. That was great. They had a great series in Montreal. They do a good job. Why am I not playing the 25K? Because I had a baby 2 weeks ago. And it would be very irresponsible for me as a human to go leave my wife and my son. Do you recommend mega satelliting at the World Series of Poker? You should know by now my stance on satellites in general. We're not going to rehash that. I have some posts on my blog about satellites, and I also have some posts on Medium about satellites. So go find those. Essentially, if it sounds like 99%, you're trying to do this pretty professionally. So if your average buy-in is, let's say, 1K, do you really want to be starting to add $10,000 buy-in tournaments to your buy-in? What that essentially does is it makes most of the other tournaments you play rather irrelevant. So now you're just playing like 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 big tournaments each year. And that drastically skews your results to where those are the ones that significantly matter. So I would tell you instead just to grind it up, be patient, play slowly. The only thing I would perhaps tell you to do is try to get into the main event specifically. I would not tell you to try to satellite into 5Ks and 25Ks and stuff like that. I think that's probably just a mistake because those tournaments are not particularly soft. What's the difference between HPT and World Series events? I've never played an HPT event, so I couldn't tell you, but I bet they are comparable. Do you have any tips for being consistent? How do you stay on your A game when you don't feel as connected as others? I have 2 books. Here they are. Check them out. Positive Poker and Peak Poker Performance. I wrote them with Dr. Tricia Cardner. Both of these will help you with mindset. I mean, read this. How to bring your A game to every session. Could I have written a better book for exactly that question? Peak Poker Performance. Go get this one. If you had to get one book, read this. It's going to be very, very beneficial. Talks about beating procrastination, how to generally deconstructing your A game and how to stay on it, why the systems you have in place may be failing, etc., etc. Anyways, a good book on mindset. Can I offer some advice to start to switch to cash games? You've been in a tournament reg, but you don't have time to commit to tournaments other than Sundays. You want to start from the ground up, including ranges. Where do you start? Another book. Here. Wait. We've answered all of your questions. Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. Get this book. It's a big book. Lots and lots of ranges. You say, how do we start with ranges? All these images are ranges. And this will be very, very beneficial for you. Royal says, no time to see the city because you need to play the tournament. Yeah, but sometimes you don't play the tournament very long. Sometimes you just end up snap losing. And when you snap lose, don't just sit in your hotel room and be pissed. Get out. Enjoy your experience. That's something I horribly failed at for my first few years of my poker career. I did not enjoy the cities at all. I would sit and I would play online poker all day, every day. And that was a big leak. I missed many opportunities to see lots of great places in the world. I mean, I saw them. I saw the inside of the hotel rooms, at least. And that was a mistake. Let's see. If anyone else has any questions pertaining to this, definitely let me know. I know some of you are in the Bahamas right now, and I'm happy to give you tips. What other tips for exactly Atlantis? Because Atlantis is very expensive. Well, that's something else to consider, right? Make sure you understand the cost that you're going to incur by going. I do realize most sites, when you satellite in, they'll give you some sort of room voucher or money for food or money for flights, etc. But you may actually incur a lot of decent cost, which again, if you can sell action to the tournament, even at a discount, it's fine because you do need some cash, right? Remember the first year I went to the PokerStars PCA, there was this kid there. This is before they gave you $1,000 for food and all that. There was this kid there who had literally no money. He was eating ramen noodles all day, every day. And after that, they decided, oh, this is not good because we have this bad story that's getting reported of people not being able to afford anything at the restaurant, at this venue. I know this year at the PSPC, they have food trucks outside, apparently. Victor Ramden was posting about this, that are cheap and good. So good. I know they used to have a Jamba Juice there and a Quiznos there. I think one of those two closed. But those are always good and cheap. I mean, good enough. They're not like amazing or anything, but they were cheap. So understand that. Do I sell ebooks? All my books are on Amazon. Also, some of them are at the D&B Poker Store in the ebook format. So understand the costs that you're going to incur and plan ahead for that. You don't want to go somewhere and then realize, oh my God, I have no money, we're broke. And even if you go to somewhere like Atlantis, for example, let's say they give you $1,000 to go to eat there. That's your food money. You're going to quickly find out it's about $100 a day per person. If you're going there with 2 people, well, that's $2,000, right? But they only give you 1. So be aware of that. Be experimenting with a pre-flop flag that consists of you never 4-betting to allow yourself to have more strong hands when you call 3 bets. I mean, sure, you can essentially balance or close to balance any strategy, but very often that's going to take away some of your options. And as you limit your options, usually that's not so good, especially when that option is one that leads to you playing big pots with the best hands. So you want to 4-bet with your best hands because that lets you play big pots with your best hands. And you also want to 4-bet with some bluffs because you get to 4-bet with your best hands. You knocked out Victor Amden in the last tournament you played. He ripped in Queen 10 against your Ace King. Victor Amden is not afraid. So have I ever tried things like that? I typically don't experiment in that manner. Very often I just have new plays that I have learned that exploit player pool tendencies that I'm looking to implement, or maybe just a GTO principle I want to implement. Like in Montreal, I did amazingly well just check min raising all the paired boards with my entire continuing range. That's something that I've been studying and learning about. And when you're out of position on the middle and low card paired boards, like Jack 2-2, Jack 6-6, etc., those are great spots to check min raise your whole continuing range, which means 8-7 on Jack 6-6, you're check raising, and works pretty well. So I'll often go in with ideas of things like that to do, but I'm not ever thinking I'm just going to take a complete option out of my game. I mean, to be fair, I don't do much leading, right? I know the times when you do need to lead, and I lead in those spots, but in like heads up pots against the under the gun raiser, I just don't lead anything because it's not a good play because of the drastic range disadvantage that you have. All right, no suggest being on time to play with weaker players. However, if you play bigger and are unsure, should we show up late where the edges are smaller? Quite possibly. It's definitely not a bad idea. If you think you're at a disadvantage, you want to play as few hands as possible in the tournament. So how do you do that? You show up late. Show up as late as you can. Then play big pots whenever you have a reasonable hand. It's not such a bad strategy. And if you just happen to win 10 coin flips in a row, you win the tournament. Easy game. That said, again, if you're going out there and your goal is not necessarily to completely maximize your EV, so you do want to have a good experience playing poker, maybe you do just still show up on time and have a good time. All right. Many already say, what's my favorite tournament not including the World Series? I don't know why you would assume the World Series is my favorite tournament, because it's not. What is my favorites? Where do I have good memories? I'm trying to think where I have good memories. I like EPT Prague is nice, mainly because the city is nice. It's in the winter. I love the freezing cold. You can walk around. They serve you wine in the winter and on the streets, and the tournaments are good. I won a tournament there. I won this one right here. I won this one. This is 5,000 euro something another. 5,000 six-handed euro tournaments. I remember I got heads up with Connor Drennan, very good player. And there was actually a 2,000 tournament starting that same time. And if we did not chop, we would not get to play it. I said, do you want to chop it evenly? Even based on chips. He said no. He wanted to be paid to chop, which, makes sense. He's a good player. But I realized we both want to play this 2K, right? But apparently he didn't care that much about the 2K, so we played, and I won. It was so fun. So I have good memories there. I also... What else do I like? I have good memories of Bellagio, but that's like old Bellagio where I used to play in the Fontana Lounge. I like Mirage because I won a WPT there. I don't know. I mean, now, I guess the place I've liked playing the most recently has been the WPT Tournament of Champions. Who would have thought? They put on a good event for the champions, so I thoroughly enjoy that. What poker variant plays very well as a tournament besides No Limit Hold'em? I don't know. None of them? I don't know, man. I think limit games are silly for tournaments in my experience, because especially when stacks get shallow, it's just like, okay, here we go, pop it in. I'm pot committed on the flop with queen high. So that's always I'm not a big fan of that. PLO is a little bit silly too. I don't know. Probably any game that's very similar to No Limit Hold'em is probably fine enough. All right. Looking forward to the big things coming to pokercoaching.com. Yeah, we have lots and lots of changes happening in the near future. So oh my gosh, what just happened? Lots of changes happening in the near future, so we are excited about that. All right, Justin says, the World Series satellite winners have to register for certain days of the tournament. Do you plan which days you'll enter the tournament based on the perceived field strength? Okay, if you win a satellite, very often I think you get to pick the day you want to play. Although, I know in many places they just make you play 1A. So keep that in mind. Do I plan my day based on perceived field strength? Me as a professional have two things going on, right? If I go to, let's say, a tournament where they have two day ones, day 1A and day 1B, Day 1B is always softer than Day 1A. It always is. The only exception for this is when it falls on a Monday, and Day 1A was on a Sunday, which doesn't happen very often. It's just poor scheduling for the venue. So they figured that one out already. So, as a professional, I want to play as many buy-ins as I can with an edge. So, if I play on Day 1A, the edge may be 30% ROI. Is it worth it for me to play 30% ROI in a 5K so you make $1,500 on the day? And it is. So I'll play it. Usually you're going to lose. Usually you don't make it through Day 1A, unless it's a really slow tournament like World Poker Tours. Usually half the field or two-thirds of the field, or half the field or a third of the field makes it through Day 1. But that's fine. I mean, still, you're out two-thirds of the time, give or take. So you play that day, you make $1,500. Then the next day, maybe you're going to have 100% ROI if you get to play it. If you don't get to play it, that's fine. You have an off day and you get to rest for Day 2. So as a professional, I'm willing to play both, right? If you only have one shot at the tournament, though, because you've satellited in, this is your first big tournament, which is what we were discussing today. You all can't see that at all. How do I fix these colors? I look so washed out. Oh, that fixed it a little bit. If this is your one big tournament, definitely play Day 1B. No brainer, play Day 1B. Because it's softer. Why is it softer? Well, a lot of the pros made it through 1A, right? So if the pros make it through 1A, that means there are fewer of them in Day 1B. And also, recreational players often have less free time to go play poker than professionals, meaning if they get to take a vacation, their vacation is often as short as it can be. So that often leads to them playing Day 1B, or the last day, whatever the last day is. I mean, also, if you just look at the general field size, that's usually a good indicator of field strength. So if you look at the World Series of Poker main event, right? Day 1A has like 400 people. Day 1B has 2,000 people, and Day 1C has 6,000 people. Like, why is that? Well, all the reasons I just told you, right? Actually, the main reason I just told you is that the time off consideration, I think. Jonathan should be in the Bahamas. No, I had a child. I would not want to be in the Bahamas right now. That my wife would divorce me and I would not see my children anymore. I guess if I didn't want to see my children anymore and my wife, that'd be a good thing to do. 2018 was the year you definitely became profitable. Good. I'm glad to hear that that's going well for you. How would a Jonathan Little structured tournament look like? I don't really care. I really just don't care about structures that much as long as they are reasonable enough. I do love how Party Poker's going back to the freeze-out tournaments. Freeze-outs, for all the people who came into poker just over the last year, are tournaments where you cannot re-enter. When you buy in, and you are done after you lose. So no re-entries. That is great for the recreational players because the pros can't play over and over and over again. If someone's buying in and they're taking out 20 or 30 or 100% ROI every time they buy in, the recreational players are going to get demolished. And we generally see this. I wrote a blog post about why very recreational players should not play the Monster Stack tournament at the World Series a while back. Got a lot of flack for that one. People did not like the idea of me telling people that this tournament that everyone plays is not a good thing for them to do. But if you looked at the final table, almost no recreational players made the final table. Why is that, right? Because the pros had a lot of time to extract their value. I mean, really, the main event of the World Series is not a good tournament for recreational players to play because all the pros extract all the value. That said, they're going to play. They don't think about the money. They think about the prestige, right? And, hey, all their friends are playing the Monster Stack event. Why wouldn't they? So anyway, I love how they're going back to freeze-outs. I think that's great. I also really like the idea of early in the tournament being able to apply pressure to someone's stack. So, for example, if it's a re-entry tournament, if the guy busts, he just re-enters. He doesn't care. Whereas, if you're playing a freeze-out, they're going to be much more cautious. I wrote about a hand I played against Eric Seidel at the LAPC. I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago at this point, where I just ran a big bluff in the first level that I would never do if it was a re-entry tournament because it's just going to pop his money in there and call with all the bluff catchers. But in a freeze-out tournament, when there's no other tournament happening, he may at least be a little bit concerned about calling it off. Because no one wants to fly across the country and then bust in the first level. That sucks. All right. Ideal regulated sites to play in America. There aren't any, besides the ones that are in the regulated places like WorldSeriesPoker.com, PartyPoker.com, PokerStars New Jersey. Those are all fine. Don't play on the unregulated sites. Someone sent me a message on Instagram the other day saying PPP Poker stole $20,000 from me and $40,000 from the other people, etc., etc. I'm like, well, duh. Don't play on regulated sites. Don't be a fish. Unless you're cool with losing the money, right? What's the worst downswing in cash in tournament? I really haven't had much of a cash downswing. Maybe 50K, give or take. That's not true. One year I played big, and I think I lost 80K or something like that. But really, that's not even that big at 100, 200, right? At 5-10 when I used to play, I think my biggest downswing was like 20K. But every month I was winning 30K. So it was fine. Tournaments, biggest downswing has been about 400K, which was about 70 buy-ins, give or take. So that was a pretty big one, but it happens. How do you play when they rebuy every time? Don't bluff as much, right? If they're going to rebuy every time and you know they're going to call you a ton, you want to be playing mostly for value. Is online poker rigged? No. People who think it's rigged are often just not very good at poker. All right. Can we shed some light on big blind antes? I made a little poker advice about this a long time ago. Go find it. It doesn't change the game much at all. It's just better. Mark, I've already said lots of the tips for the World Series of Poker. But I don't know. Ask any questions. Let's see. You have a hard time understanding why pros recommend playing a tighter range early in the tournaments. The reason the pros give is there's not much to fight for. No, you should be playing quite actively early in the tournament to try to extract value from the weak players. I'm not exactly sure who gave you this advice. That's bad advice. Make sure you're getting advice from good people. That said, I mean, if you are bad, like let's say I'm giving advice to someone who is bad at poker. Okay? What would I tell them? I would probably tell them to play pretty tightly in the early levels because that's where they can make big blunders by getting top pair, top kicker, and losing all their money. So if they think you're bad, then maybe it's not such bad advice. But if you are trying to win the most money possible, you definitely want to be playing lots of hands. Do I believe in New Year's resolutions? They certainly exist. I know they clog up the gym. I think New Year's resolutions are interesting because almost no one sticks to them. I much prefer just having life goals that you generally accomplish. I'm not a big fan of this date passed, therefore now I should have new goals. That said, I do understand that's very beneficial for a lot of people, especially those who have a hard time sticking to goals. And if they stick to the goals for 3 months, like say you're going to go to the gym for all year and go to the gym for the entire year, and instead you only go for 3 months, well, that's sure better than going none, right? So whatever works for you. Figure out things and ways to motivate yourself. That way you do the things that you need to do to better your life. You say you play 50% of your range in the early stage. That's probably too much. 50% VPIP is way too high. What's the opinion of playing super wide in the early stages? I mean, look, that's absurdly wide. Don't play absurdly wide. Like 30%, sure, but 50%, you will not be profitable playing 50%. Unless your opponents are really, really bad. I mean, if they're super nitty, then sure. Phil Hellmuth came in after dinner break. It took him less than 10 hands to get on tilt. Maybe he was already on tilt before he showed up. Eradicator, thank you for this feedback. I will send this to my team. We have been going through a new process recently to figure out ways to let people sign up to the site without a credit card, because that was a big burden for people. And some people are falling through the cracks, and there are issues where they're not getting, they're not being asked to subscribe, which is clearly amateurish, as you say. I will forward that to my team. Thank you for pointing it out. If you could email me what you just said there, and along with your email address, that'll be good, and we will look and find why that has happened. Louis Philippe, welcome. If an event has a turbo day, is it going to be the softest? Probably not. You would think it would be, but it shouldn't be. It should be, but it's not. So one thing I have learned from talking to tournament directors is recreational players don't like funny variants. They don't like six-handed. They don't like initially big blind ante, right? Every pro's like, yes, big blind ante is obviously good. All the recreational players are like, oh, I hate big blind ante. Recreational players hate change. This is why if you look at the World Series events, they have turbo tournaments, right? They have 2 or 3 turbo events. And those, get way fewer players than the regular tournaments. But in reality, recreational players should love the turbos because that's where, again, they play fewer hands to win the bracelet, which means their skill disadvantage is mitigated, right? So very often the turbo just ends up being the best players who somehow didn't get in, shooting it in there one last time. That said, I mean, they'll be fine. They'll be fine to play. Sabio says, I field crushed it really well. Thank you very much. I do my best. Kai says, it's because I'm a pro. I don't know if I'm really a pro at anything anymore in life, but I do my best. Thank you all for being here. All right, but yeah, tips for playing your first big tournament. Realize very often you have won an experience, right? And you need to associate good feelings and emotions and mindsets with the experiences that you are blessed with in life, because you really only get so few. I mean, if you are normally just, living a regular life, working a 9-to-5 job, and then you get a trip to the Caribbean dumped on you, then that's great, right? If you go there and you lose your tournament, that's okay. Realize you have a trip to the Caribbean or the trip to anywhere, right? You have a great opportunity. Study the poker, play your best at poker, take the poker seriously. But whenever that does go poorly, and it will go poorly 85-ish% of the time, then that's okay. So don't let that ruin the experience in your mind or spoil it, because, like I said, you only get so many great opportunities in life, and you might as well make the most of it. Alex Fitzgerald, Assassinato, and I sometimes give different advice. Would you say his advice is more low stakes and mine is for more higher stakes? He definitely plays a more exploitative strategy than I generally teach, but that's because I am teaching a more unexploitable strategy, but then I'm explaining how to adjust from it. So for example, Fitzgerald discusses a lot about leading, for example, whereas I don't really discuss a whole lot about leading. Man, I just realized this chat's wrong as well. We'll fix the chat for tomorrow. Sorry about that, everyone. What do I need to do to fix it? There we go. That fixed it. But yeah, so whenever you hear people giving different advice and you respect both of them, well, first off, maybe one of them is just knows better than the other, but also maybe one of them is teaching a different methodology. And like I said, Fitzgerald does a lot with exploitative strategies. And for that reason, he's going to be teaching more of plays than GTO. And that's perfectly fine, right? You don't need to be playing GTO against almost anyone. So he's teaching plays that work against the player pool that he's very likely discussing, the medium-ish stakes players. Whereas I'm trying to teach you how to play fundamentally sound and then how to adjust to beat everyone. Because if you know where to adjust back to when you don't know what they're doing wrong, well, you're just going to win some small amount, which is fine. And if you know what they're doing wrong, you can adjust and then just really crush them. So I don't play mixed game tournaments. I play only a few games at the World Series, the games I feel very proficient at. That is No Limit Hold'em, Pot Limit Omaha, Limit Hold'em. 3 games. Those are 3 games I play. And in the past, I have dabbled in other games. Like I've played Limit Omaha 8 or better a decent amount. I feel proficient enough at it, but I hate the game. I played Deuce to 7 Triple Draw some, but again, I don't actually feel that competent at it. Another thing, if you look at a lot of these mixed games, if you pay attention to the results, you'll see the same 10 or 20 people making the top 30 or 40 or 50 of that tournament almost every year, which means the game is actually quite skill intensive. As someone like myself who is not devoting their lives to this game, and remember, these are all specialists, right? These are Omaha 8 or better players only, or just like really great mixed game players. Do I really want to even devote time to learning a game that maybe I'll be not as good as these players, and then I'm not going to be making deep runs? So remember, I don't necessarily play poker games for fun. I'm not going to spend a day where I could be playing a no limit hold'em tournament where I could win money, where I know I have an edge, to play a game for fun that, first off, I don't even think it's fun, and that I may not have an edge. It doesn't make logical sense, right? And you also have to devote 4 years of your life studying this thing to actually get really, really good. And that doesn't make logical sense to play 1 or 2 or 5 or even 10 Omaha 8 or better tournaments each year. It doesn't make logical sense. So no, I do not play the mixed games. But I'm good at PLO, and I'm good at limit hold'em, and I'm good at no limit hold'em. Would I recommend multi-tabling without a HUD? If you can pay attention. How do you manage shorter levels online compared to live? You'll actually find that online tournaments have generally better structures than live tournaments, because online the structures move up very slowly. Like it may be 5-10, then 10-20, then 15-30, then 20-40, etc., etc. So they go up really slow. Whereas live, they often like double, especially in smaller stakes games. And also, there's no shuffling, and the game moves way faster online. So you get in twice as many hands an hour online compared to live, or more. And that is highly beneficial, right? So the structures aren't actually that worse. They may appear to be worse because it's a shorter amount of time, but time is not what you're measuring. You're measuring the number of hands you play. All right, if you play 2-5 live, 100 big blinds, what do you think is the minimum bankroll? Go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. I wrote the bankroll Bible for you and everyone else. It'll answer that question for you. So, Rain, I would ask, what is your win rate? That's the first win rate. First question. Poker says 500 times 100. You do not need 100 buy-ins for live poker if you're good, because your win rate can be quite high, right? Let's say you do play, well, I'll give you my results. When I used to play 5-10, I was winning about $100, let's call it $100 an hour for simplicity. So 10 big blinds per hour. How many hands do you play an hour? Let's be nice and say 33. That means we're making 30 big blinds per 100 hands. Okay? Most online players are used to making 5 big blinds per 100 hands. So we have 6 times as high of a win rate in live poker than online poker. If your win rate is 6 times as high, your bankroll requirements are drastically diminished. So I probably needed 20 buy-ins or something like that. I mean, like I told you all, my worst downswing was, I think, 15 or 20K, give or take, and that was over a year and a half or so of playing 12 hours a day every day. So you definitely do not need 100 buy-ins. I think that's overkill if you have a really high win rate. Now, if you're winning at 5 big blinds per 100 hands, so you're winning at $10 an hour or $5 an hour, something like that, then yes, you're going to need a huge bankroll. So it's not just a question of, I played this game, what do I need? You also need to know your win rate, and you also need to know your standard deviation, which is how much variance you encounter. My variance was always rather high, but that was fine because I didn't care. And high variance often leads to higher win rates if you're playing well. So that's it. Standard deviation is kind of negligible. Everyone plays close enough to the same to where I don't think it's that big of a deal. Anyway, all that information is listed at jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. Lewis says, you only play with a HUD. I only play with a HUD too. I fall apart without a HUD. HUD means heads-up display. It's a way to display the statistics of your opponents on your screen. I use Hold'em Manager. You can find more information about that at jonathanlittlepoker.com/resources. All right. Louis Philippe says, thanks a lot for the Assassinato free webinars. Yeah, Alex Fitzgerald did 2 webinars over the last few days, and he's actually selling a course through my email list right now, and he's going to be giving lots of question and answer sessions. If you enjoy my Inner Circle, where it's a call-in session, it's going to be kind of like that. He's going to be doing 4 of those as part of that, I believe. I hope I didn't spoil it. Maybe I just gave away some of the bonuses. But it's like getting private coaching from Alex Fitzgerald if you sign up to the next course. And if you're not on my email list, well, you're missing out. You've screwed up. Go to pokercoaching.com and sign up for the free membership. And that we'll be sure to email you information about the webinar if you request it. Anyway, Louis Philippe, thanks for mentioning that. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. That's going to be it for today. Instagram's telling me I have 1 minute, 11 seconds left. People keep asking me why I'm not in the Bahamas. Again, I had a baby. I have a 2-week-old baby at home. He kept me up all night. But that's okay. Do I look tired? Maybe a little bit. But that's okay. Thanks again to everyone for being here. Hope you all have a great, great day. Enjoy yourselves. Be nice to someone. Gregory says there would be no breaks. If someone got too loud, they get removed. No, I like my breaks. If you play online poker, you may not know this. If you play online poker, you have to pee every hour. So Jonathan needs his breaks. But yes, if someone is too loud, they're banned. I agree. All right, have a great day. I will be back on Wednesday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is Little Poker Advice. 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I should be here each day this week. We'll see how it goes. Thanks a lot. Have fun. Enjoy your life. And if you do get your way into a big tournament, enjoy the experience. And if you don't get your way into the big tournament, enjoy your experience too, because your time's limited.